Good day, fellow history enthusiasts, and welcome to 1651, right in the middle of the English Civil Wars. England, Ireland and Scotland have been gripped with intermittent war for the last decade. King Charles lost his head and the peasants still don't wash. I am your host, Finn Chapman, bringing you a tale of one of the final conflicts of this period of vast social, political and religious upheaval, the Battle of Worcester. Charles I, former King of England, a prude, sharp man, once very fond of his head, had been executed following what was, essentially, a coup by the new model army. Parliament was purged, new legislation passed, and the country entered a republic for the last and first time. Now, not many people were happy with this change, and that is important to understand for the background of this battle. The Scottish, for one, had attempted to wade into English politics several times over the last few years. You've had the Bishops' War, they got involved in the Second English Civil War, and were most disturbed by the sudden preeminence of a Puritan oligarchy, specifically the new model army power centre which had established itself in England. This threatened their special Presbyterian church, and Charles' son, also named Charles, for kings were not very creative, was, understandably, a little cross to hear his daddy's head had left his body and not even the copious use of staples could glue it back on. Charles had arrived in Scotland the previous year with all the righteous rage of a teenager and the army to match it, and was instantly crowned King of Scotland. He was, after all, the righteous heir to the Scottish and English throne, and the Scottish were very scared of the English at this point and would do anything to see them gone. Charles signs a pact with the Covenanters for an army and marches alongside David Leslie, a fancy-headed general of the Scots, wearer of short kilts and strategically very talented. So they split their army between them. Oliver Cromwell arrived from Ireland from his little side quest involving a lot of bloodshed, which was a bit like that bit in Call of Duty where the protagonist shoots a load of civilians, and he instantly marches to meet them. Cromwell skirts past Charles, who is deployed ahead of Leslie, engages Leslie at the Battle of Dunbar, and utterly smashes them. Charles is suddenly cut off, Charles behind him, and the English borders ahead. His supply lines were cut, and he had no wish to engage a new model army general that had just routed a Scottish army twice his size under the skillful leadership of Leslie, and little care to support a Presbyterian Scotland that he had, like his father, little love for. He determines to march on London instead, in an attempt to reclaim his crown, regardless of anything else. Charles had a force of 20,000 and the optimism to match. First, he encountered only a militia. After all, the new model army had been composed of the better trained, fitter, younger men who were currently deployed in Scotland. And the militia was composed of people who didn't make that grade. So he easily swept aside them, and the new regime in England was not popular. It was hoped that those smelly peasants we mentioned earlier would rise up and overthrow their Puritan despots, ensuring a golden restoration of monarchy, with Charles, of course, at its head. Alas, this proved to be an ill-founded hope. The English, as racist as they were lacking in hygiene, found these hairy-legged, kilted men tramping through their fields most disturbing, despite their severe misgivings regarding the replacement of the king with a Puritan-dominated system. An uprising in Norfolk is crushed by the new model army. Aside from that, there was little popular support for Charles II. This has much to do with the dislike of the Scottish, and also to do with the Republic's intelligence network, which crushed many a plot. Furthermore, Charles was unpopular amongst his own army. Desertion meant that only 1,300 actually crossed the English border. Almost half his army has abandoned him before the first shot was even fired. But things still looked good. Only 4,000 New Model Army troops were arrayed against him. The rest were in Scotland or killing people in Ireland. Although vastly outnumbered, they slow the Scottish advance down. Worryingly so. And Charles's army is ill-equipped due to the loss of the supply lines and lacking in morale, due to the Scottish and him not really getting on. As such, progress is slow, and the New Model Army do well to slow them down. This has the end effect that Charles has only reached Worcester by the time that Cromwell has brought an army down from Scotland to confront him. Charles, suddenly outnumbered, realises that things aren't looking good for him, and he is currently cut off from advancing further by New Model Army troops, the same 4,000 that had slowed him down so effectively. Luckily, Worcester is a walled city, got fine medieval curtain walls, stone, thick, strong, and a large cathedral, which is again a tall building with thick stone walls, easily defensible, and as such, he digs in for defence. However, desertion is again an issue, and before the battle has even begun, he loses yet more troops. And the loss of the supply lines is really beginning to sting him. But despite this, there is a long and bitter struggle around Worcester. The walls are held by the Scottish Covenanters, and it must be remembered that the Covenanters are strongly trained. Many of them have served in the 30 Years' War on the continent and have gained much experience. They are driven by their religious fervour for Presbyterianism. However, a series of bad luck encounters seriously hurt the Scottish position. A lucky cannonball hits a magazine besides a royalist gatehouse in Worcester, and the resulting explosion kills many and shatters the gate. Additionally, a masterstroke from Oliver Cromwell himself led to a bridge of boats being constructed across the river that blocks Worcester. And as such, New Model Army forces were able to swarm into the city. It's an incredible loss for Charles II. He is absolutely crushed. 3,000 royalists are killed, and only 200 of the New Model Army. Charles, humiliated, is forced to hide up a tree, the greatest of ignominies, to escape capture, and only narrowly manages to escape the city and run away to the continent, where he likely gets absolutely hammered. Additionally, the New Model Army were now running out of threats to their reign. They had fought off the Irish, or slaughtered them, as some historians might say, with good merit, and fought effectively against royalist threats in the form of the unoriginally named Charles II and the angry kilted Scottish. As such, the Battle of Worcester is important, as it was pretty much the last major threat to their existence that Parliament faced, and the last chance that the Royalists would have for some time to restore monarchy. Thank you for listening. I'm Finn Chapman, and this has been the Battle of Worcester. Oh, forgot to hold that now.